You're listening to ChainLeak, the crypto news podcast with your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.
Welcome to the ChainLeak podcast. I'm your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Today's episode is about the Internet of Value, Verus, presented by SafeTrade, the go-to safe exchange for the Verus community over 4 years running. Today's guest, Mike Tootonghi, the lead developer of Verus. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you having me on and having a chance to talk about Verus.
All right, great. So you have a deep background in technology. You've helped develop a variety of different products that millions of people around the world use. Could you give the listeners a background of how you got to the point of developing on Verus?
All right. Well, I'll try to make it quick and hit some of the key points. So my background was, started in computers a little over 40 years ago, actually, with assembly language. I did operating systems work. I did some hardware, like a lot of device driver. I actually wrote an operating system at one point for a new CPU back in the day. And all of that led me eventually to Microsoft, to work at Microsoft and to be the lead developer for the kernel for Windows 95. And, people might remember that as well. And so that was actually a pretty interesting time. And after we finished up Windows 95, we turned our attention to the internet. That's when I started the Java VM effort at Microsoft and moved on from that to actually eventually end up being a founder of the .NET platform. People might be familiar with C#. It used to also commonly be used for Visual Basic. But generally, I think C# is the language people prefer to run on. It does support lots of different languages. And so after founding and running and growing that organization, the platform organization for that for about 5 years, I did do some other things at Microsoft, including running the eHome division, which was Media Center, Windows Media Center Edition. And then I eventually ended up leaving Microsoft and starting a social network of my own. And in that social network, we developed some technologies like the patent, where you take a photo of somebody or a video of somebody, and from your cell phone automatically shares to groups or friends in your social network. That's a patent that I got with that company along with 5 others. Microsoft bought that company. I ended up back at Microsoft again, and they brought me on as the chief architect and technical fellow for the advertising platform, where I did a lot of focus on big data and machine learning. Eventually ended up leaving again and doing consulting in machine learning and big data, and that some of the projects there are when I really realized that if we had a network, and this is what led into Verus, if we had a network that had, privacy for confidentiality, but it also had verifiability of who were people and properties about them that they could disclose and prove privately, and it also had transparency that would allow people to do things like, enter polls and vote and do these different kinds of things. But it could be proven that they were people. It could be proven that they had, the properties that they should have, whether it's demographics or whether it's, different kinds of things about them. And they could express their opinion without being afraid of people attacking them for their backlash for their opinion because of the confidentiality and the privacy. Then I could actually get the truth from people to use as training data. This is kind of a fundamental goal that could help us as we evolve AI into what we're starting to see today. But I think it's going to get a lot more powerful than that. And that was the genesis of the idea behind why we need a network. And Verus, the name, is Latin for true, and that's where that comes from too.
I appreciate you giving us a brief background. Thank you for that. Let's give the listeners an introduction to Verus. What is the reasoning behind? What is the different types of technology involved? What are the goals of the network?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, my background has been in big data. It's been in internet technologies, internet protocols,
Yep.
and then enter blockchain. And, blockchain comes along and it's got this like Bitcoin, this amazing advancement that many people don't even recognize this, what it really is, but it's that the people, at least originally, power the network. The people power the
Yep.
network. No company, no country can turn off the network because it's a provable peer-to-peer network. You don't have to trust any single person to use it, and it'll keep track of the numbers in that shared ledger, and they'll be correct. And that's something you can know based on the protocol. But
Yep.
the challenge, and what some people have, I think, taken an easy way out to solve, which is just layer a computer on top of it. The challenge of it is that a single blockchain, that technology as a single blockchain, it's got scale issues. It's got these challenges. It is not yet an internet if you think of a single blockchain as has to be the thing that's the be all end all. It's this idea that we're going to make decentralization for everyone, but we're going to have everyone use just ours, And I
Yep.
realized that isn't actually how it's going to evolve. That just is not how I believe it's going to evolve. That's one thing. The other thing is that, Bitcoin has different tools, but it doesn't really have that built-in real privacy. Because it's this public protocol, we needed to get more advanced kind of cryptographic techniques. And
Yep.
Zcash came along and they developed technology that was practical to be used with their zero knowledge privacy. They made it so that transactions and information can be sent between people, and it can be validated and proven on a public network, but it didn't have to be public. The information and the transfers didn't have to be public because of this, zero knowledge privacy. It means it doesn't leak information about the transactions you send or these things. And
Is that how you came up with the concept of the internet of value?
so actually what I came up with was this at the time was this concept of we could scale if we don't try to be the one blockchain that everybody has to use. And instead, we understand that the internet scales out. Sure, you can
Yep.
scale up single blockchains, but if you connect them in a provable way, which actually turns out to be the really hard challenge that people wanted to always shortcut through, if you connect the blockchains in a provable way, then you can scale out, and each one can scale up in their own different way. They could be the hyper fast computer, they could be all these different things. But if you scale out, you don't have scale limits. And if you make it so that they can provably communicate with each other, and this was a vision from the beginning, and you keep that privacy, and you keep that provability, and you keep the ability to transparently prove what you want to prove without
Yep.
having to expose everything that you want to keep private, then we can have scalable networks that do it. It brings that same kind of power that initially Bitcoin brought, but does it in a way where it extends the power. You can convert between different currencies based on just on-chain decentralized algorithms. You can have identities that can be locked, they can be secure, they can hold value, but you don't have to lose your identity. You can have revoke and recover, and it can be 100% owned, self-sovereign, no rent or renewal, like an internet address or certain kinds of IDs that say that they're IDs, and it can have friendly name systems. And if you enable this network to be able to provably communicate and exchange value and connect to other blockchains that you don't have to own them. They don't have to be, paying you a tax. None of this pays me a tax. And there doesn't have to be some rent-seeking company at the center or someone who took a big ICO, because
Yep.
Satoshi proved that.
Yep.
He made this technology, made it available to the world. And I think that this is just continuing in that spirit of this is a protocol, and at the base level, the protocol has unlimited scale. It has privacy. It has the ability to do real DeFi, brings the decentralized to DeFi. It doesn't mean somebody has to make a project and come along and take a bunch of money while they're making their project, because the protocol, and this is because we believe this needs to exist, the protocol itself drives that capability to a primitive that everybody knows is in the protocol. The whole world can just make that protocol as secure. It can be post-quantum. It can be all these different things,
Now,
And so, yeah.
let me stop you there. So you say it's post-quantum and you have the ability to interchange with other chains. What does that look like for an end user if they come to the Verus network, and whether it's right now or 10 years down the road, post-quantum, let's look at from an end user perspective, both right now and in 10 years, post-quantum. Right now, what does it look like for an end user with the interconnectability between chains?
Thank you for asking that, and also bringing up the quantum, because I don't mean to make any kind of misunderstandings for anyone, because here's the way that Verus and the ID technology on Verus, the self-sovereign friendly name ID technology, that's the basis for all of this other kind of capability, but it includes privacy. It includes privacy in the identities, but it includes the ability to prove things about yourself. You could prove your age, you could prove your, citizenship and these different things without even having to disclose your name, for example. The IDs themselves, they're set up to be post-quantum, but the signature algorithms that we currently use on the blockchain, they are not yet post-quantum. So what that means is when the protocol is upgraded to include, we're looking at likely, what's called the crystals, dilithium, post-quantum signature protocols, something along those lines. And it's not, we're a community, so this is all open source. People come and they build and they evaluate and they we tested some of our technologies for years and years before we rolled them out on mainnet. So when we go to post-quantum capable signatures, then when the network protocol does, the IDs themselves don't have to change. The IDs themselves can hold all sorts of assets on all sorts of different chains. We call the multi-chain network that is Verus, we call it the public blockchains as a service, because anybody can come launch connected blockchains. Those blockchains are connected to Verus. They can connect to Ethereum automatically, no extra cost or rent to do that. And all of those can have IDs that are on their chain, across chains. And those IDs, if a user would just say, I want to move to the post-quantum signatures that are now part of this new protocol in the future, then all of their assets controlled by those IDs are now post-quantum, because the IDs are post-quantum. Yeah. Without having to move their assets. That's important.
Let me stop you there. So, for sure. So you talk about the IDs. I was looking more for the interoperability. How would an end user connect this ID to multiple blockchains? How would they connect a Verus ID to multiple blockchains? And what types of blockchains are able to be connected at this point?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now, when we launched Verus, the protocol, like I said, it's public blockchains as a service. But
Okay.
clearly, our goal was not to be just an island of a protocol. So
Yep.
that protocol, also connects to Ethereum, and that protocol it can connect to other blockchains. It can connect to things that are, run by DAOs and this kind of thing, but it has an actual provable, cryptographically provable connection, unlike uh, most other blockchains that I can think of, most other networks that I can think of, across PBaaS chains that extends to the Ethereum network today. And we expect over time, a lot of people connect to Ethereum, but we expect over time, there's no reason that we can't connect to many other types of blockchains, as long as those blockchains have cryptographically provable ways to control and release funds, then there would be a way to connect to other blockchains. And so right
So
now, the way it would work for a user, you asked
yep.
that question of how would a user see it? The user can get the Verus mobile app. It's 100% open source. App developers can start with that app to build applications, and
Okay.
a user can get the app in the App Store or the Play Store. They can interact with the peer-to-peer protocol, and they can send any currency that anyone can map from Ethereum to Verus, and any currency from any PBaaS chain connected to Verus or Verus, which all PBaaS chains and Verus as well have unlimited number of currency capabilities, currency launch capabilities, DeFi capabilities. They solve MEV, which we can talk about later, in their liquidity basket capabilities. And all of those currencies, whether they're Kickstarter style launched currencies or just an easy way to launch an ERC20, can be just sent over to Ethereum, and they'll pop out as ERC20s that are automatically being able to be used on Ethereum, or they can be, or NFTs can be sent back and forth, whether they're the ERC standard that is the original 721 on Ethereum
Yep.
or the other that's 1155. People can send them over to Verus, and people can launch NFTs on Verus, and they can send them over to Ethereum. And so our first kind of external protocol where we really work to focus on the enabling a great user experience was with
Yep.
Ethereum, because right now it's a place where a lot of people they use it. They're maybe used to much higher fees and much slower response than they'll get if they try to use Verus. They're maybe used to MEV and these kinds of things, which if they use Verus, they're going to have a more pleasant experience, with converting currencies, maybe inexpensively enough to do payments. And not maybe, basically, this technology can be used for universal multi-currency payment networks that scale to everyone in the world, every city, every state, every country, no problem, because
Okay.
because it
Now
scales out.
let me stop you there. So from an end user perspective, would I need to connect to multiple chains, or do I use what is available on the network? Are all EVM chains compatible? You spoke of Ethereum. What other types of networks are compatible? Is Bitcoin compatible? Is Syscoin compatible? What other types of networks are compatible with the Verus network?
Well, if you think about it like this, the Verus Internet Protocol, we call it VIP, Verus Internet Protocol.
Okay.
It's agnostic about what kind of other protocol connects to it, but it itself can
Okay.
scale to an unlimited number of PBaaS blockchains, which all run the same protocol. They can have different block times, they can have different cost structures, different emission structures, states or cities or organizations, private communities, communities launching projects, AI-based communities that want to have, data that's provable, this kind of thing. It's a
Yep.
permissionless way to launch a completely uncongested, connected blockchain that initially, there's the protocol, which it's agnostic about what it connects to and designed to connect to any protocol that can, in a
Does it have to
decentralized
be a
way.
Does it have to
And
be a smart contract protocol?
it does not have to be, but most of the ones that are not Verus that can connect are usually enabled by smart contracts. Verus is not. The way that it
Okay.
actually connects, it doesn't need smart contracts to do this. It's just built into the protocol. But smart contract platforms, it's easy to write smart contract connectors, but there's a difference between what it's capable of doing, what it was designed to be able to do agnostically. And as long as a blockchain can control and release funds in a fully decentralized way, and unfortunately, people might be surprised, that doesn't really include Bitcoin right now. As
Okay.
long as a blockchain can do that, then there's a way to connect it to Verus. And our goal, because we're an open community, this is something that we didn't say, here's our plan. We promised to build anything. When we launched on Bitcoin Talk May 21st, 2018, we said, this is not get rich quick. This is our vision. This is what we're gonna do. And to be honest, we didn't care if people believed us or not. We wanted people to come join us who believed in what we're saying and help us build it, but we all fully intended to build it, but we didn't want to make any promises as much as say, this is our vision and what we are, launching this for. Come help us build it.
Let's look back at the origination of Verus. Can we talk about the proof of power mechanism behind the network? Could you explain that to any listeners right now?
Yeah, thanks for asking because, with Verus, I've been on it for like more than 6 years, I think now, and every place you look in Verus, there's always something to go into depth about, to talk about, and I sometimes miss proof of power, but it's so important actually to the
Okay.
underlying function of the network. Proof of power combines the best of proof of stake and the best of proof of work to actually be better than either of them alone. And let me tell you why. So the
Okay.
key is that we were the first protocol that uses proof of work included in the protocol to prove that it's 51% hash attack resistant because it literally chooses the most powerful chain, not the chain with the most work when you're doing this permissionless validation, and not the chain with the most stake, the chain with a balance between the most work and the most stake. And both of those together secure the network. So if you have 90% of the hash power and you don't have a lot of stake on the network, it doesn't matter. And if you have
Okay.
90% of the stake on a network and you don't have most of the hash or a lot of the hash power, it doesn't matter. And the benefit here is a huge benefit. The proof of work is an on ramp for everyone in the world to have this permissionless access to the open network. And if someone says you don't need proof of work, they most likely had an ICO. They most likely have a lot of the currency on that network because it's the currency and the wealth that's already on the network that controls the network, and there is no on ramp. There is no
Okay.
way that someone can permissionlessly participate in helping to secure that network. But that, with decentralized systems, the more people worldwide who can participate, the more secure the network is if they have incentive
Yeah.
to participate. And so you have this population of people that do mining that use, and we worked really hard to make sure that people can mine on computers, they can mine on cell phones, they can mine on, rock pies and orange pies. Right now, I'm not aware they can mine on Raspberry Pis, but they can stake on Raspberry Pis. And staking, so Verus has a little more than an 83 million maximum supply. There will never be more than 83
Okay.
million Verus, but it doesn't depend on inflation to always pay because it has built into the protocol a circular economy where there is a fee model that goes into a fee pool. So even when rewards eventually have to the point where they're very low, the network can still sustain long-term rewards based on the fee model, and actually in a way that doesn't have to charge users exorbitant fees in the way it's designed. It's actually designed to be sustainable. So proof of power.
Does let me stop you there. Does
Sure.
Verus have happenings like Bitcoin?
Yeah, so Verus has happenings like Bitcoin, and it happens every 2 years. At the very beginning,
Okay.
we realized that, you know, Bitcoin already existed. People knew about
Yep.
crypto. There was a more of an acceleration of what was going on, and it was during a time when awareness of crypto, it was actually, we launched before a bear started, a bear market. And so it was like at a time when people would really quickly learn. And like I said, we said the truth from the beginning, but if
Yep.
people didn't believe us, it would just give us opportunity to help bootstrap the whole thing in a stronger way. And what ended up happening, we got way more participation, way more people, mining with power worldwide than we even expected at the beginning. And the happenings at the beginning, they were accelerated, and then now they're basically every 2 years until the end of, rewards, which is pretty far in the future. And so now you think about, there are people who are mining, but they only get half the blocks. And that limited
Okay.
supply is the supply that people can use for staking. And whether or not you mine, whether you're or not you have computing power that you're going to, buy computers, buy cell phones, you're going to, people do that. I happen to mine, I don't have like a giant data center mining, but I like to mine. I mine on computers. I mine on a cell phone. I'll just shout out to him, Paperclip YT, if you don't mind, was the guy who actually sent me a phone of his, the kind of model that he thinks is the best one, and I love it. But
Okay.
I mine, and I stake with whatever Verus I have. And staking is not like on some other networks where you got to lock up some amount of staking capital, and you can't touch it for a while, and you could get penalized or slashed. We actually solved the nothing at stake problem, where
Okay.
bad behavior on staking, before other networks had any solution for that on their main nets. And the way that we solved it was, if you tried to stake the same coins on multiple computers, the way that our proof of stake side of proof of power works, the network catches you. Everybody on the network they're automatically, they're looking for people who might cheat in that way, and they can
Yep.
prove it and catch you. And if they do, they just take your reward. So don't do that,
Wow.
and
Okay.
they don't slash your stake, but they'll take your reward. So don't do that. And so basically, we don't do slashing. We don't make you lock up currency. And people have earned stakes. The chances are really, really low, because the more Verus you're staking with, the more chance you're going to earn part of that half of all blocks on the network. But people have earned stakes on as low as under one Verus. There's not like a minimum
Okay.
amount that you can stake with. The odds might be low, but the odds can be low and people can still win. So the combination of proof of work, and the one thing I didn't mention about proof of work, with the PBaaS protocol, you can, on the proof of work side, on the proof of stake side, you have to stake with the native currency of the chain. If you put that currency into liquidity baskets, which all need to include it in order to pay fees, that's the security
Yep.
currency for the chain. And it's very important that it has to be the security currency. And that's where the fees get paid in. But you can only stake it when it's not in a liquidity basket. You can stake it when it's locked, and it's in a locked state where someone can't take it from you. So you could safely stake it on a VPS server or somewhere else. Because even if someone was able to get access to your keys, they couldn't necessarily take any of your funds. And you can, in a
Okay.
self-sovereign way, you could do it, or you could have your family participate to revoke and recover. It's your choice how you end up being able to secure things. So So staking and mining together, that's proof of power. Each of those populations helps it be more and more decentralized. And each of those populations can use equipment available to everyone worldwide to either stake or to mine. You don't have to lock up your funds to stake. It does require that you wait like about 150 minutes after your funds settle in your wallet before they'll be able to earn stakes. That's for security purposes. But aside from that,
Okay.
it's some of the easiest. You get the Verus desktop free software from Verus.io. It's signed using the Verus digital signatures. You can verify the signature. Verus Coin Foundation does a service for the community. You can build it from the source if you know how to do that because it's fully open source. You can read all the source. It's available to everyone. It's open.
Now,
And so that, yeah.
speaking of that, let's go into the community and how they have helped develop and prosper the Verus network. Where are your developers located? Are they in different countries around the world? Is the community worldwide? Where do you see the biggest group of contributors to the network?
Yeah, so the community is absolutely worldwide. And to give you an idea, I mean, so my son,
Yep.
he's Michael Toot Jr. He actually lives in Netherlands. He doesn't live in the
Okay.
U.S. I'm in the
Okay.
U.S. We have developers. We have some developers in the U.S. We have developers. I would say right now we have. Um, I suppose we probably have more overall contributors, probably, but I'm not sure in Europe. But the whole project is community. There's not a central company that is hiring anybody to do this. And most of the core contributors, or I'd say most of the core contributors, a lot of them, you know, I don't know if it's most or a lot, but some of them are sponsored by companies. Some of them
Okay.
are helped out by the foundation or donations from people in the community. And yeah, most of the core contributors are volunteers around the world.
Gotcha.
We have people developing in Indonesia, we have people developing in different places in Europe, and we have people in the US doing different things. But then we have the most well-known person supporting people in the community. He won't take bounties from anybody. He's a volunteer, and he came to the community to learn about Verus, a number of years ago. And he's a guy who lives in Hungary, off in the woods. He's a kind of older guy who just has a strong background in technology support. And he's like,
That's cool.
he's up at all hours helping everybody. That's Oink, to the point where we're
That's
talking about
cool.
doing an AI that can be like a helper for people to understand things that
You
really
gonna
learns.
name
Because
it Oink?
we're thinking about calling it Oinkbot,
Yep.
out of respect for him, because it's never going to do as good of a job. Well, I don't know. Maybe AGI it could actually be awake longer than him, but
Ah,
it's if it could aspire to be as helpful as he's been for everybody across the community, that would be great. But it's like people have come from around the world, and even if they contribute, whether they donate something to developers working on stuff, or whether we were at Consensus when we were just at the point of having PBAS technologies where we could really show, because we've been testing a lot of these technologies we've really been testing for years. The anti-MEV, these things we've been testing for
okay.
years, and and they're on mainnet and they're working great. And that's it took we didn't try to rush something out, because some things that are high tech, they take some effort to finish. We didn't have VCs saying you got to get a return at this time, because we didn't do
Right.
ICOs. Nobody had any preferred anything, and we just did it because we believed that this was the right thing to do. So we were at Consensus in 2022, And we're now talking about, should we do that again? Because it was such an amazing experience for the community. We had more representation at Consensus than just about any other company or community or anyone that was there, except maybe like a Fidelity. We had 25 people just show up from around the world,
That's cool.
on their own dime. People donated in the community. Like, we asked for donations that could be, it was like 15,000 for a booth, maybe another
Yeah,
15,000 on top of that to help. We got 10 times the cost of the booth in donations for the budget that we were able to use to really make that a great experience for everyone. And the coolest thing about it, I think everyone who was there would say this, is that we met most people in the community for the first time in our lives, but it was like we knew them for years. It was just
yeah,
like we all went out, we had a great time, we spoke, we got interviewed, we got a lot of people aware that have led to connections, that projects that are working on things. Ireland right now, actually, some of the connections that we made there. We got a most disruptive decentralized technology award right
that's
around that
cool.
time from Fidelity. Uh, and that led to some work that we're doing, with the Irish government right now in VMware and some data centers, working on things that are basically doing, using our technology, because in the way that they looked at solving things in the past, it would have been millions of dollars for Solidity devs. It wouldn't scale the way they wanted it to,
Yeah,
lots of difficult challenges. And when we walked them through how to do that with PBaaS and with the multi-currency capabilities that a completely uncongested PBaaS chain, part of the whole network, can offer, we were able to just walk them through their entire flow chart of all the things that they hoped they might be able to do, plus a little bit more in, a matter of minutes, in real
okay.
life, like for real, without having to fake anything. No,
Yep,
no Figma, no, having to pretend like there was something going on that wasn't, just really actually using the protocol. So that's been the experience when people, check it out. So we have a really active community, and the whole project is the community. I'm the lead dev, but because the community kind of gives me that honor, and I drive a lot of the technology, I've invented a lot of the technology, but there is not a chance in the world that something just that is like, I don't control the protocol. I don't control the community. People come and they'll make their opinions known and they don't have to agree with me. I don't control the
yep.
foundation. I can say what I think and I do, but other people do as well. And it's the way it should work, I believe. It's decentralized.
That's that's pretty cool to be able to have that type of community around the protocol. Now, when we look to the future of Verus, are there any new developments you're excited about or new product releases that you could see the community bringing to light within the next 6 months to a year?
So right now, actually the amazing thing, every single thing we put into the original vision paper, which were not
Yep,
promises, it was like, is done. Like
that's
everything that we
sweet.
envisioned as this unlimited scale network that solves, the ability to have confidential, verifiable, and transparent polls and elections and get data that can integrate with our, machine learning and AI and multi-chain, and we called them auto chains. We already said, public blockchains as a service back in the original vision paper. Um, all of that is actually done. And so when I think about, the community development, there's polish, there's, things like, yeah, we want to have, post quantum digital signatures. We want to do, there are things that we want to do that will improve the ability to have experiences. And we want to improve even the GUI experiences that are available, even though the mobile's pretty sweet. Like, here's an example. Like, I think that you've seen some of the ability to just convert from one currency
Yep.
to another through the protocol, which is quite easy and really low fee, low overhead. It's something that you could imagine going into a coffee shop or, some local cafe or a store or something. And because it scales in an unlimited way, there's no reason you can't do this. And because we have, variable block times, you can have block times that settle in 10 seconds to 2 minutes. It's like it's fast, it's unlimited scale. And so you can imagine walking into a store, it pops up a QR code, you snap that code on your phone and it says, this is what we want to be paid in, and we want to be paid in a dollar stablecoin. We want to be paid in a euro stablecoin. We want to be paid in a yen stablecoin. We want to be paid in the currency we prefer, but you
Yep.
hold something else, and you want to pay with the currency you hold. So you just accept that payment. You click OK. It goes through the protocol. They get paid in the currency they want. You pay in the currency you have and that you prefer, and it all just happens automatically through this fully decentralized protocol with no
Automatic
company in the middle
conversions.
taking rent. Automatic conversion.
Yep.
And the beauty of the automatic conversions, which I want to get in here because it's important, and it might be one of
Okay.
the most important things that we actually solve, which is one of the hardest actually for people to really understand, is that if you look at the DeFi today, that you might quote DeFi, and it's really
Yep.
like it's a group of a few people who control the ability to define the rules of that DeFi, and they'll collect some tax every time that DeFi is used,
Yep.
whether it's for we are going to make the protocol better forever in time or something. This is more like the Bitcoin model. There's no company taking any cut when conversion happens between one currency and another on the transparently decentralized DeFi. There's no, and you could have centralized DeFi, but we're talking and you can tell the difference. Everybody can tell the difference. So on the
Yep.
protocol based DeFi, it's just part of the protocol, and everyone and in a single block and sometimes more than a block. And this is part of the way that we actually solve MEV. And I know it might take a second, but let me say it how this works, because it's super important, and it really might be one of the most important things of what Verus brings to humanity that hasn't existed before for people.
Okay.
And I know that sounds really hyperbolic and all, but it's not. It's really true. So what it brings is this protocol where all of the conversions, if you're converting dollars to euros and other people are converting euros to dollars, and your
Yep.
transactions end up in the same block, or if or because the protocol not wanting to let the miners know if they get to close off a block, so you don't want them to front run people at all, and they have other ways to earn money. If you end up in the same one or more blocks that according to the protocol are solved together, they're all solved at the same time. It's not like a VM model where your transaction runs, then a MEV bot's transaction runs. Theirs runs first, then yours runs, then another one runs, then another one runs, and the prices when that's happening, they're like up, down, up, down. You get this price, I get
Yep.
that price, you get this price, and whatever you said was your maximum slippage. If they have a way to do that, you kind of get that, because somebody's in there making sure that they're pulling in money, especially from the users who don't want to know the details of how things work. But what this
Right.
protocol does, what this does for everyone, is it gives the validators, it gives the people who are mining and staking a position where they get perfect knowledge of how to arbitrage. Now, this isn't really leveraged yet, and the first people who understand it, who actually want to build arbitrage into the system, we welcome those developers. We welcome those financial players in the ecosystem, because if they don't come, we're just going to do it for everyone. Eventually, the community is just, it's going to be open for everyone. But the more sophisticated arbitrage happens on our network, on the Verus protocol, which is,
Yep.
we don't own the network. It's the one that the community developed. The most sophisticated arbitrage that people can do, and against centralized exchanges and against other markets. If we have marketplaces where you can basically convert any kind of assets. The most sophisticated arbitrages mathematically drive the prices across everywhere that this arbitrage happens closer and closer to the worldwide fairest price for those assets with no spread. So the people converting dollars and the people converting euros, they get exactly the same price with no difference between buy and sell. And the people
Right.
arbitraging shave less and less as they get more and more sophisticated and they're competing with other arbitragers. But the people who are validating, the people who have the Verus to stake or the hash power to mine blocks are the people that ultimately solve all of those block transactions. And when they solve, they don't get to front run, they don't get to back run, they get the opportunity to join the set of transactions that's going to be solved. So they don't get to order things and put themselves in the front or sandwich transactions or do these things.
Right.
And they just get to join. But when they do, they know exactly how much they're going to make. And so shaving just a little bit is profitable. And only the people who are validating get that perfect knowledge to do that. So it's been designed, it's taken years. Everything in the vision paper is complete. When I think about longer term, what people, what the community's kind of focused on right now. One thing is letting app developers know that like I built technologies for platforms for years, many that are used by a lot of people. And this is a new technology for decentralized application platforms that scales with an unlimited scale, that can build unlimited scale social networks, unlimited scale voting systems, provable AI data networks. It basically has the potential in the protocol to be the backbone for so many different applications and to make the app development way easier than what people experience today. And that's just true. And so helping people who are the entrepreneurs, the app developers, and supporting the early ones to really make their
Yep.
dreams real on this. That's our goal as a community, for the next year. But I do believe that we're going to be working on improving the core open software user experiences, even though they're great on mobile and they're really, really good on desktop, but to improve them to the point where it's just totally seamless, as good as any, quality. It's not, as always, this is not promised. This is what we're all working on in the community. And also to let people who they have a vision of the kind of social network they want to make, come
Yep.
check this out. You can build something on this that is better than you probably ever would expect, and it's not going to be limited by smart contracts. It's the model is decentralized, but interestingly, the app model is more similar to web application development or mobile application development without having to worry about writing contracts and the problems with Solidity and that kind of thing. And if you want to launch ERC20 currencies on Ethereum that work with Solidity, every single currency you launch on Verus and every single NFT you launch on Verus can be sent over to Ethereum and used on Ethereum as well if you would ever want to, you know,
Okay.
because there's that direct connection. So it's kind of this. If people talk about an L0 as a protocol that connects blockchains, we
Yep.
have that built in, and it's more provable than other what you'd call L0s I know of. and it's decentralized. Then we have an L1, which is a fully unlimited scale multi-blockchain network protocol where each blockchain is its own blockchain with its own rules, its own economics designed for what its use might be, its own speed and processing. You know, each blockchain can go from like 75 to about 800 transactions per second, each blockchain alone. And then all the blockchains are just connected. And in that way, you know, from Ethereum, Verus looks like an L2 that helps Ethereum scale in an unlimited way. From Verus, Verus looks like an L1, and other PBaaS chains look like an L2. From all the different PBaaS chains, each one of the chains looks like an L1 and others look like an L2. And you asked a question, if I'm going to use all this multi-chain capability, do I need to have all of these different chains running? And the answer is no. Like you can just use, if I send from Verus over to Ethereum, an address on Ethereum, I don't have to be running Ethereum for it to get there. It's going to get there. And if I send from Verus over to a PBaaS chain, I don't have to be running that other PBaaS chain. It's going to get there. And just like, you know, the model is we try not to force everybody to have a data center just to be able to participate in securing what they want to secure. That's why people are mining on cell phones. They're mining on the little orange Pi, which I love, you know, and it's one of the things I love to mine on, you know, and you can stake on these little devices. You can stake on a Windows PC. You can mine on a Windows PC. You can, you know, people are using all sorts of different devices to mine and stake, and there's no complicated block producer, bundler, you know, validator separation. It's just the regular old, you know, Verus node that has all of these capabilities built into the consensus driven network that does all of these things. You know, it's a multi-currency identity enabled with privacy blockchain where every single currency that goes into a transaction, if you're familiar with Bitcoin, for example, you know, you got these inputs and you got outputs on every transaction. It's not like the VM-based account model. Every single input can have any number of currencies, and every single output can have any number of currencies, and all the currencies on the chain, they're primitives in the protocol. And so just as on Bitcoin, Bitcoin is accounted for on inputs and outputs, and just as in Ethereum, only Ethereum is accounted for, not the other currencies that run on it, which is why you have all these different kinds of hacks where somebody made a mistake in the, you know, the Bifrost bridge hack or something, and they told the contract that the money was there, but it really wasn't there. And the contract said, oh, the money's there, but it's not validated. You know what I'm saying? And so with Verus, all of the values on the inputs and all of the values on the outputs are validated just like on single currency blockchains like Bitcoin or Ethereum are, but it's done with all currencies. And this works for all PBaaS chains. And when someone comes to launch a PBaaS chain of their own, there's a fee cost in doing it that's designed to help cover the costs of the Verus protocol support of that launch. And the other way it's designed is they're going to get a massive amount of hash power at the beginning to secure their chain, whether they have great rewards in their own currencies at the beginning or not. And then they've got 50% proof of stake, 50% mining, and they have a lot of control over how that whole economy ends up shaping up. So I know it's a long answer. Hope that's okay, but that's, you know, the long term short answer. We're done with the current level of protocol. We would consider it something that we would, what we call ossify. You know, just we don't expect to change. You know, the community might decide to extend things. Yeah, the experiences will get better, and people will come build apps. And that's the future.
Okay, so for the closing remarks, give the listeners the website where they can learn more about Verus.
Yeah, so just to let people know, you know, a good place to start is Verus.io, and that's where you can get the free software. You got links to all the different software. You got links to all of the different ways of converting to and from Verus, whether it's an exchange or a protocol links or things like that. You've got a lot of information there, how to get to the docs if you're a developer. But if you really want to get deep into the protocol, join the community, and talk to, like, I'm there every day. Other people in the community are there pretty much every day. You know, Verus.io/Discord. We do a lot of our communication on our Discord server. And
Okay.
then if you want to read articles about Verus and a lot of the new technology and what it enables, medium.com/VerusCoin has a lot of great articles to get in-depth information and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think, those are some good links for just connecting to the community. With those links, you can't go wrong. If you have any questions and you drop by Discord, it's a community where pretty much people who are new to it come in and people just help.
Okay, great. Well, hey, Mike, I appreciate you being here. This has been the Internet of Value, Verus. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good day, buddy.
You too.